All right, welcome to another show of Retirement Keys. My name's Anthony Kinjemi. Uh, we have our fabulous co-host with us today, Mr. Tony Shore, and we have a good show for you this morning. We're really looking forward to really a great show and some good information as it relates to retirement planning. But before we get started, I'd like to again introduce our great co-host, Mr. Tony Shore. Tony, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, Anthony, great to be here with you, and it's great to see you today. We're going to be putting this up and clips from the show up on YouTube,
Yes, sir.
so our listeners can also be viewers now. I think that's fantastic, but it's great. I've been so busy. I cannot believe pro football preseason has already started. I mean, I can't believe we're almost to fall already. I mean, where did the summer go?
Well, good riddance as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
it was so hot.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And the other day, I think it was might have been yesterday morning, the morning before, there was a little bit of breeze out
Oh,
there.
yeah.
But there was, and I was telling my kids, I said, "Oh wow, look, fall is in the air," and it really isn't. I mean, it was still 100 degrees, but it was I guess I was just,
Yeah.
but I really am looking forward to the fall.
Yeah.
The summers are so hot here in New
Oh,
Orleans.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's brutal, and this one especially, right? I mean, it's been unseasonably, I mean, just more it seems like it anyway.
It really has, but maybe we're just all getting a little older.
That's true, the heat gets to us a little more too as we age probably. I mean, I'm not aging. I
No,
just
you're
wanna
really
point that
not.
out. I don't, age, you know that,
Right.
Anthony.
Yeah. What is your secret there, Tony?
Well, a lot of people think I'm younger than I am, and, I tell everyone it's my immaturity, it throws people off.
Yeah, I mean, when you're I think that there's something to that actually. I mean, when you get older, you sometimes we just take life too seriously.
Yeah,
And sometimes you just need to, you know, let things happen the way they need to happen, enjoy your life. Sometimes we can just overthink things or take things a little too seriously. And then of course, that's not good either. So,
no.
look, keeping that childlike spirit, I think is good medicine.
Yeah, I think it is too, and I think you make a great point there. Now, I know we're going to be talking today about things, mistakes, 13 mistakes that people could avoid uh, that might have a negative effect on their legacy to have a positive effect on their legacy by avoiding these 13 mistakes, Anthony. So, where do you want to start? What's the first common misstep that you want to talk about that our listeners out there should avoid that could impact their legacy?
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. So, as you know, in our retirement plans, estate and legacy planning is one of the key elements to any sound retirement plan. And so we're going to be drilling down on the first element, which is estate and legacy planning. So today's show is about legacy planning and the 13 common mistakes that could impact your legacy. And so the very first one, Tony, is just simply failing to plan. And
Yeah.
the article that I want to send out to our listeners starts to talk about the biggest mistake you can possibly make when it comes to estate and legacy planning is just simply not making the time to do it.
Right.
Uh, Unfortunately, it's something too many of us put off. It's easy to put it off. We don't want to think about it. But one of the things that I've found, Tony, when we talk about the five keys to a stress-free retirement, and obviously that's our objective is to have a retirement where all of your, ducks are in a row. You have all of the no stone left unturned. And estate and legacy planning, even though it's not something that we want to think about day to day or
Right.
is always on our mind, in the back of our mind, we do recognize that it's important. And, if we get it taken care of and we get it out of the way, it's not something that has to be continually talked about or considered unless there's some change that needs to be made. But my point is, once you get it out of the way, it really does, because we do talk about that stress free retirement, and it is a piece of our retirement planning that we all know is important and we all know that it needs to be done. So it's kind of like just get it out of the way, get it done, and it really can help with a overall harmonious retirement because again, you have all the pieces in place for a sound retirement. So it's just one of those things, Tony, that really doesn't enhance your life per se, but it does give you the peace of mind knowing that if and when something were to happen and we were to transition into the next realm here, wherever we're going next, right?
Right.
Uh, that we've taken care of our earthly possessions, our estate, and we're not leaving a mess behind, Tony.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't want to leave your loved ones in a bad situation. You don't want to create family disharmony, and that's what's going to happen
Correct.
if you fail to plan. You've seen it happen with families who haven't properly planned that have come to you after the fact, and I've seen it with my own family when my grandfather passed. You have to have a plan in place. You have to be working with somebody like yourself, a financial advisor who's going to be looking at the big picture, working alongside an estate planning attorney to make sure you have all the ducks in a row, and that's a big one. So number one, obviously, failing to plan is the number one mistake people make. But what's another big one that you've seen people make as far as estate planning and legacy planning is concerned?
Yeah. So another big one, Tony, is going to be really not discussing your estate plan and your wishes with your family.
Yeah.
So many times people they don't include, now with that said, I guess it depends on the dynamics, of the family. But and a lot of times, the kids appreciate, the family appreciates being involved, especially when it comes to personal items,
Mm,
things that you
yeah.
want to happen, things that you want, let's say heirlooms, or things that, or mean something to you on a personal level. You may want these things to go in a certain direction or to a certain person. Maybe you want to set up some accounts and some inheritance for grandkids, and you have to involve whoever that might be that would be looking over those assets, trustees and the like. So, a lot of times, depending on the estate plan, a lot of times involving certain family members is important, and it can also shed some clarity on how you want things to go. So, ultimately, it really is a good idea to have an estate plan and have family members, key family members, if you will, involved in some of the decisions that you're making. So it's really a personal thing, Tony. The whole estate and legacy planning is really personal. Um, and it can be emotionally charged if it's not handled correctly.
Yeah.
And so at the end of it, I would say I have clients that have taken care of their estate and legacy planning, and they've done things the way they want them, and they really haven't involved the family, but they've got things very orderly. And then I have other clients that have had their kids involved, or grandkids, whoever might be inheriting. And that's worked out real well also. So it really is part of the family, depending on the family
Yeah.
dynamics there. But, at the end of it, having a well documented estate plan can really go a long way, as you said earlier, to just maintain harmony and fairness to the heirs.
Yes, that is the bottom line right there, Anthony. And I have a personal story to share that really illustrates this. My grandfather, who lived to 101, my grandpa Bob,
Oh,
when
wow.
he passed away, he had a farm and he has four children. My dad, his two brothers and sister. They were a tight knit family, always got along, loving family. They loved each other. We
Yeah.
always got together. But my grandfather passed. His will was a mess.
Mm,
He wasn't working with an attorney that specialized in estate planning.
yeah.
He didn't have a financial advisor like yourself. And he did not communicate. You know, that generation, he just didn't talk about money ever with anyone or discuss his finances. And so what happened is he appointed one of the kids as the custodian or the
Executor.
executor of the will.
Right.
And because this attorney wasn't very good and didn't specialize in estate planning, and because he appointed the youngest son as the executor and communicated with him, but none of the other three. Now, after he passes, things were a mess. Not everything was clear,
Right.
and two of the brothers aren't speaking to each other anymore.
Yeah.
And that see the
That's
family,
unfortunate.
but that's exactly why we're talking about what we are. And it is unfortunate. But if he had been working with you and an estate planning attorney and had communicated it, not discussing it with family and friends is such a crucial mistake. You don't want to leave your family in a bad situation or create disharmony after you're gone. And my grandfather never would have wanted that. That wasn't his intention at all. And he
Right.
would have done everything in his power had he just realized, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do. And it isn't unfortunate, and it certainly wasn't his intention. And I tell you, I bet everybody, Tony, that's listening to us, or the majority of people that are hearing us right now,
Yeah.
could probably think in their own minds about whether it be a family situation or someone they know that has experienced disharmony in a family because of someone passing away, and then there wasn't some clear, direction
Instructions.
on how
Yeah.
things are to go. Somebody pass away. I know it's common because I see it. I've seen it many, many times over and over. How you have disgruntled family and they're not talking to each other because we have a lot of clients and we talk to a lot of people, and
Yeah.
it's very common. It's
Yeah.
very common. And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I don't think any of us want that. Nobody wants
Yeah,
that.
and it doesn't have to be that way.
No, it
There are
doesn't.
ways to avoid it, and I know that you and a good estate planning attorney can help avoid that. And you, if our listeners out there want a recommendation, I know you work with estate planning attorneys and know them and have for years helping
Right.
your clients out. So that's good. So we've hit the first couple. What's the third mistake that people make when it comes to estate planning?
Well, it talks about not naming just one beneficiary. And let
Right.
me just back up and say there's only really two ways assets transfer. One, by the will, so going through succession, or in a lot of states they call it probate, which, let's just say, probate or succession is just the retitling of an asset. So if
Right.
I have a boat in my name and I pass away, it's got to come out of my name and go into someone else's name, and that's
Mhm.
got to go through this succession process.
Yeah.
Okay. So it needs to be retitled. The other way that assets transfer, very efficiently, I might add, is by beneficiary designation. So a trust can have beneficiaries, an annuity, your IRA, retirement plans, life insurance. These are all examples of assets that can transfer by beneficiary designation. Now, what's efficient about that is it doesn't have to go through probate. Those assets go to the designated beneficiary.
Right.
So it's efficient, okay? But now what the point that this document is making, not just naming one beneficiary, is I would think a very clear point. You know, if you have other beneficiaries or if you have other people that are inheriting from you, you know, the idea here is that you would just name one person as the beneficiary and then hope that they, you know, dole out the assets according to your wishes. And, you know, obviously, I don't think that's a good idea.
Right.
You know, for more than one reason. I mean, there may be tax implications to these assets that are going to that one beneficiary. So, and then you're, you know, depending on this one beneficiary to carry your wishes out and you know transfer assets to the other folks that, you know, that's just not a good idea. For assets that have designated beneficiaries or a beneficiary form, you want to make sure those forms are filled out correctly. You want to make sure that all of the folks that you want to inherit that asset, their names are on the form, the percentage of what they're supposed to be getting is on the form. If they have kids and they were to predecease you, you want to
Mhm.
make sure that the appropriate language is on the form. So if they predecease you, you don't disinherit, let's say, their kids or the grandkids. So the beneficiary form is a very powerful form. It takes that asset and it puts it directly in possession of the designated beneficiary. It avoids probate, it avoids succession. So it's a very efficient way to transfer
Yeah.
assets, but they have to be filled out correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. You have to have those contingent beneficiaries on there. A lot of people skip that step or don't do that, and they don't update their beneficiary designations. And life changes, life happens. You got to keep make sure they're updated. Look at that every year and make sure you update those. Now, what's number 4? What's
Number
another reason?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think of estate planning documents, we think of, you know, wills, we think of beneficiary designations, we think of living wills, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But we also, Tony, we don't want to overlook power of attorneys, durable power of attorneys that handle financial and healthcare directives. So, your power of attorney is an essential document, estate planning document, where if you're not able to act in your stead, if you're in a situation, maybe you're in the hospital or maybe you've had some kind of an health issue and you're not able to make decisions, whether it be financial decisions or medical decisions, and then that person, Tony, whoever that might be, it could be a spouse, it could be, you know, a child, a good friend, whoever that person is, Tony, that would be at your side if you were unable to make good, rational decisions for yourself for whatever reason. If that person, and we all have that person in our life, incidentally, you can think right now, if I found myself in a situation where I needed, you know, someone else to make decisions for me, whether it be a financial decision or a medical decision, who would that person be in your life? You know, and we all probably know or have that person in our life. So, whoever that person is, the point is this: if they don't have your power of attorney that can handle the medical and financial directives, you have just handicapped, tied their hands. They literally are powerless if they don't have your power of attorney. So this is an estate planning document that we should all have. You can lock it up, you can put it in a safety deposit box, but you need to have it available in case you're not able to make a decision on your own. If you've got some kind of health issue and you need that person to be there and act in you for you in place of you because you're not able, If they don't have your power of attorney, Tony, their hands are tied.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's tough. Powers of attorney are important. I know that my parents and I took care of that, so I have power of attorney if
Yep.
something should happen
Right.
to them, and if they need it. And it turns out my dad's cognitive abilities have went, so
Yep.
I have
So
to
you had
handle
to,
his finances
right.
and medical power of attorney with my mom as well, who's in long term care now. So it is important to have that in place. I can attest to that personally. Now, if our listeners have any questions about this, they need to get a full financial plan in place, and really estate planning has to be part of it. How can they get a hold of you, Anthony?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just say one other quick thing about a power of attorney, and then I'll mention that. Real quick, let me just say that if you give your son, daughter, spouse power of attorney, that does not in any way take your abilities away.
Right.
You're not relinquishing anything
No.
in your own. It's just simply if you're unable to act in your own stead, that the power of attorney steps in. It doesn't take anything away from you. But yes, Tony, estate and legacy planning is a big part of retirement planning. As you know, it's one of our keys to a stress free retirement. And if you are listening and you would like to get an assessment of your retirement plan, and this document in particular, the name of the document is estate planning mistakes and how to avoid them, please give our office a call at 504-828-2171, or just simply go online to crescentcityretirement.com and ask for your copy.
Yeah, and that's huge. Thank you for that, Anthony. And listeners, take that opportunity, pick up the phone, give Anthony and his team there a call at Crescent City Retirement. Now, Anthony, I think we're at number 5. We're talking about critical mistakes people can make when estate planning. What's another one that we should avoid?
So the number 5 on the list, Tony, is forgetting about final arrangements. And again, estate and legacy planning, wills, power of attorneys, living wills, beneficiary designations, and then number 5, final arrangements. This is just all, Tony, really for the ease of your loved ones when you transition, when I transition out, and they are there to, settle our estates and finish our final arrangements and all of this type of thing, that the transition for our families are very smooth. It's already an emotional time. It's already a hard time. So having all of this in place is really just an act of love. And somebody said, really, it's the final love letter that you're going to give to your family is your, final arrangements and having all of that in place. And so, Tony, again, one of the mistakes that we're bringing out here is just not addressing it. Whether it be a final expense policy with a memorial guide with all of your wishes laid out, where it's more portable, where you can, your family can have services and arrangements done, really wherever, y'all decide. You have a memorial guide that has all of your wishes in place. Some people will go and do actually a prepaid type of arrangements where they'll go and pay, for the arrangements. But the idea, Tony, is that all of your wishes are in one place. You know, if and when something happens to you and you were to pass on, all of those arrangements have been dealt with. And, again, Tony, I view estate and legacy planning as really just, you know, getting it done and then forgetting about it. Not getting it, not, worrying about it, or, oh, I have to get this done, or this is in the back of my mind. Because here's the thing, how, if you have something that you know is inevitable, is going to take place, and then you're trying to enjoy your retirement, and then all the way, in the back of your mind, there's this nagging, I've got to get it done. We just, feel like, you know, swallow the pill, knock it out. It's not expensive.
No.
It really isn't. And it's just a matter of getting it done and then forgetting about it. It's not something, unless there's some change in the family or some dynamic, or somebody gets married or divorced, or another child is born, or a grandbaby. When certain things, or somebody passes away, when certain family events like that come along, well, then, yeah, it's time to, kind of revisit the plan and make sure that we've made those allowances. So it could be a work in progress as it relates to that. But outside of any major family, you know, uh, events, it's not something that has to be continually looked at. But
Right.
final arrangements and getting all that out the way, Tony, is just part of a good overall estate plan.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And there are 13 things we want to talk about on this list. We've gotten through about half, and we're going to draw the line here for today's show. And in part two, next week, when we come back on the air, we're going to have the remaining 6 or 7 items on the list and talk a little bit more about this, because it's such a huge topic and there are so many issues that people have and mistakes so many people make. You said it earlier, people, you've seen it over and over again where people have made these mistakes. So we want to help our listeners with that out there. And I know you're anxious to hear from them as well and love to talk to them and help them. So before we go, let our listeners know how they can set up that no charge, no obligation consultation with you and your team there at Crescent City Retirement.
Absolutely. So if you visit us online at Crescent City Retirement Group, there's a link. We can schedule a phone call. We have a retirement resource call. It's right on the front page of the website. You can schedule a phone call. You can call our office at 504-828-2171, or go to crescentcityretirement.com for that link. We also have a retirement workshop coming up in September. We're going to be in Metairie next month, at Austin's Steakhouse. It's a Mr. Ed's restaurant. If you're listening and you would like to come to the retirement workshop, we'll be talking about this and other topics as it relates to retirement planning. There's certainly no obligation. We absolutely love that. When our radio audience comes to the live events. So please call our office at 504-828-2171. Let us get you this information. But if you'd like to register for that upcoming event, we'd love to have you. But again, we just appreciate you tuning in, listening to the show, and we really do hope it's bringing some value to you.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. Some great information today. And listeners out there, that does it for today's episode of Retirement Keys with our host, Anthony Kangemi.